Hey guys, it's Bill Vinci again from No Time for Nonsense. It's a Monday night, and you know what that means. We got another big show for you planned for tonight. I'm going solo. My son's working tonight, but we got special guest, former Major League umpire Dale Scott. Dale, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great, Bill. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, man. We thank you for coming and joining us for an hour tonight, and getting to hear your story and a little bit about you and everything. So I appreciate you taking some time
Sure.
for us tonight. Well, guys, I want to thank everybody for tuning in so far. I want to thank our sponsors for tonight's show, as we do always every week. I want to first thank Matt Grabsky at Out of the Way Cafe in Utica, New York. Go down and see Matt. He's got some of the biggest breakfast lunches you can handle, man. He's got all the eggs Benedict. He's got the monster burgers. He's got a walleye wrap, and he's got walleye fish on Fridays. He's got the Mike Scarp sandwich, and he's got the tap room burger, which is out of this world. They do delivery, they do DoorDash, and you can do pickup. So go down and see Matt. Place is open now. You can go in and get some food. Give him a call at 315-733-5060. Also want to thank the Pappas family at Geddes Bakery in Syracuse, New York. Some of the best food around, man. They got donuts. They got cannolis. They got the fresh breads, cookies, pies, baklava, spanakopia, tomato pie, and even cannolis. Fantastic family with all fresh food they put out every day. Give them a call. Get your order in. They're at 315-437-8084. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring our show tonight with special guest Dale Scott. First of all, Dale, just want to ask, man, how are you doing right now?
Well, I'm very hungry after that list of food.
I know. You do get great food here in upstate New York.
I guess so. It sounds like it. I'm doing great, Bill. Doing great. Hanging in there like everybody else. Just trying to make our way through this obstacle course called life, I guess, is what we're trying to do.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, if you have any questions for Dale Scott, put them on the message board on No Time for Nonsense. I'm watching the screen here. I'll give the message over to Dale, and he can answer it for you. So send us a message through No Time for Nonsense, and I'll ask for you. So, Dale, I want to start out with you were born in Eugene, Oregon.
Yes, Eugene, Oregon.
Eugene, Oregon. So tell me a little about growing up in Oregon.
Well, Eugene is the home of University of Oregon University of Oregon, and I'm a big football fan.
I see the duck in the back, by the way.
Yes, I got it in the background here. That's product placement, I think, is what they call that. Growing up in Eugene was great. It's a beautiful city in the Willamette Valley of Oregon, and Oregon's a wonderful place. I mean, you go an hour west, you're at the coast. You go an hour east, you're up in the mountains. If you go a little bit farther east, you're in the high desert. You've got in the valley, you've got all the vineyards and everything. It's just point the car in whatever direction, and you can pretty much lots of lakes and streams and rivers, and just a beautiful area.
Yeah, you're kind of centrally located, nice, where you can get to anywhere you want.
Yeah, I'm in Portland now, which is 100 miles north of Eugene. But I make it down to Eugene every, I don't know about this year, but I make it down. Excuse me, for football. I've been season ticket holder for Duck football for like 33 years now. So
wow,
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I was going to say Oregon probably over the last. Maybe decade that they've been just a solid team every year.
I got to tell you, Bill, growing up in Eugene, Oregon football was, how do I say it, horrible. They were not good. But I'm not a front running fan. I've been a fan from the beginning. But yeah, they have really turned that program around, starting really in the it built up in the 90s, but in the last 20 years, they've had some real solid teams. And we got a great team coming in this year that on paper, anyway, we got to play some games, but it'll be different this year. We're a little disappointed as Duck fans because we have Ohio State scheduled to come to Oregon the second game of the season, but there's a good chance that there will be no fans at that game.
Oh, man. No kidding. Ohio State comes
Ohio State, yes. Yeah. So
really?
We'll
and
see
it might be an empty stadium.
Might be an empty stadium, yeah. So that's a little disappointing, but anyway, we'll see what happens. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty exciting. Now, did you play any sports in high school growing up?
Not well. I was a 3-year letterman in tennis in high school, but I didn't win a match my junior year. And my senior year, they had me go to district singles because I was a senior. That was the only reason why. And I lost 6-love in about 20 minutes, so that worked out well. Growing up, I was a huge baseball fan, and it was pretty obvious to me that I was going to be the first baseman for the Dodgers. That didn't quite work out, but I started umpiring when I was 15. That's what got me into the umpire world, because at 15 I knew my playing days were over, but I wanted to somehow, stay in touch with the game that I really loved. So I started umpiring. I just really picked up on that and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Angelo, how you doing, buddy? Hey, Bill. Angelo, a big time umpire here in the area. He does every sport: basketball, baseball, even soccer. So Angelo's tuning in. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. So that's what I wanted to ask you. You started at 15 years old. Now, were you doing like little league games, and is that how you started?
Yeah. I was basically doing junior high and then the kids, just try to get my feet wet and figure out what I'm doing, But I really enjoyed it. Officiating. I also officiated football and basketball at the high school level.
Okay.
I did that for like 18 years each, both of those sports. But the thing about officiating is, it's not for everybody. I mean, it's a very unique thing, and not everybody's cut out to be a sports official, although everyone seems to think they can officiate.
Oh, yeah.
There's a big distinction there.
Right.
But, it was something that I enjoyed, and it was something that, every day that I walked out to a game, you had no idea what would happen that day. I mean, it could be a perfect game. It could be a 21-20 blowout. It could be a no hitter. It could be you have no idea what's going to happen every day you walk on the field or walk on the court. So that I enjoyed that challenge, and trying to meet that challenge every time I put the uniform on. And so that's what kept me going, and I just kept excelling at it and moving up a little bit, and finally went to umpire school and started my professional career.
That's pretty cool. I want to ask you, who are some of your favorite announcers as you were growing up?
Well, we didn't have a local team in Eugene, Oregon. I mean, we would, I always, the Saturday game of the week, Kurt Gowdy and Tony Kubek was, that was a staple on NBC, Joe Garagiola, and then Vin Scully was doing TV, like national games or whatever for NBC or whatever. So you heard those guys. When I got into baseball, I had the opportunity to meet some legends. Ernie Harwell with the Tigers, who was just a wonderful man and a outstanding broadcaster. Vin Scully, I got to meet him personally many times, and what a great guy, and just a classic guy, and one of the best. Let's be honest. I mean, the guy was incredible. And other announcers and stuff, but unlike growing up in a area that you had a local team and you heard their games every night on the radio or whatever, I didn't really have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in New York, I wasn't a Yankee fan, but listening to Phil Rizzuto and Bill White was just, it was almost a comedy show. Especially with him. I mean, he was so off the wall. Sometimes he'd just forget the game and start telling stories about things he ate for dinner and stuff they were doing, and the game's going on. And I could just remember my dad always had the game on TV, and you could just hear him and Bill White going back and forth. And sometimes, you know what, though? It made the game interesting and fun to listen to. I don't know how Vin Scully did it for all those years, doing the game by himself.
Well, Vin Scully was unique in a way that I think he worked better by himself. He had a way of storytelling and a way of conveying a message that I think at times if someone had been in the booth with him, it would have obviously been a different rhythm and a different situation. And Vin had just such a way of setting the scene. I mean, you're listening to him on the radio. Obviously, you're not watching the game, and he'll set the scene where you can really picture exactly what he's talking about. And so he was just outstanding at that. And it's so much fun to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes in the summertime, I would almost want to take a drive in the car if you got good announcers on and just listen to them talk. It almost feels like they're bringing you into the game itself. And sometimes I just sit on the deck and turn the radio on and not even watch the game if you've got some good announcers, which is pretty cool. Now, growing up out in Oregon, who was your favorite baseball team out that way?
Well, growing up, there was no Seattle Mariners. So our closest teams were Oakland and San Francisco. But I had my mother's my grandfather, my mother's dad, lived in Los Angeles. So I was a Dodger fan growing up because that was the first game I ever went to was a Dodger Stadium, which I thought was like the Mecca. It's up on the hill. It's just this shrine up over the city of Los Angeles. And it was such a thrill to see that for the first time when I went there. So I was a Dodger fan growing up because of that. Mm-hmm. And then when you get into baseball, you're not a fan of anybody because you quickly realize that you have a job to do, and being a fan of a team is just not it doesn't work.
Yeah, I actually went to when my parents took us out to California. Went to a Dodgers game. I think it was 1977, and I can remember that team like Davey Lopes and Garvey and those guys and Ron Say and it's just it's just a beautiful setting at Dodger Stadium.
It really is, and I'll never forget the first time I worked in Dodger Stadium, and I was standing out at second base, shallow center field, and teams were warming up, and I was just looking around, going, "Wow, how did I get here?" I mean, this is a team that I used to follow as a kid. This was the first stadium I ever saw an actual game, and now here I am standing on the field. I'm looking around and just going, "How did this happen?" It was really quite something.
Yeah, that's got to be an amazing feeling. Guys, if you're just joining us, see a lot of people watching right now. We're former Major League umpire Dale Scott. If you have any questions, go to our No Time for Nonsense page. Read them on the board, and I'll read them off to them. So. Going back before we started the show, Dad, we were talking about you with your voice. You got a great voice. If I didn't know you were an umpire, I probably would have thought you were an announcer. You got a great voice.
Well, I was an announcer. I worked radio. I started working radio in Eugene at a radio station called KBDF. It was a top 40 station. I started the summer before my senior year in high school. I was 16 years old, almost 17. And I worked there through my senior year of high school. I worked there for a couple of years of college at Lane Community College. And then I went full-time and worked full-time for about a year and a half or so before I went to umpire school. And in fact, if umpire school had not worked out, I would have probably stayed. I loved it. I mean, I loved working in radio. It was a lot of fun. I had those are some of the greatest memories I have back doing that. So baseball, the umpire thing took off, and believe me, I'm not complaining, but it was a lot of fun. And I've been told numerous times it's the umpire with the golden voice. So I guess
it is amazing. We got a couple questions for you. One from Bob Taylor. Did you ever get to work with Steve Palermo?
Yes. In fact, I worked the full season with Stevie the year before he was shot, which was, I want to say, 91, I could be wrong, 90, 91, somewhere in there. But I got to work with him that full season. Before that, I worked with him a little bit here and there. But and of course, Stevie was a longtime supervisor also, and so I worked with him quite a bit after when he was on the supervisor staff, and he was a wonderful guy. Miss him, full of energy and enthusiasm. He was a super guy.
Yeah. We got another question from Angelo. Who is the easiest and toughest managers to handle in a game?
Well, I was the last umpire to eject Billy Martin.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, that was my third year in 1988. I've ejected quite a few, several that are in or going to the Hall of Fame. Every manager can be tough on any given day or any given situation. I seem to have a run-in with Cito Gaston quite a bit when he was managing Toronto. Why, I don't know. We just did not seem to get along. It just was one of those, it's funny because when you're on a crew of umpires, you may get along pretty well with a certain guy where another guy on your crew absolutely does not whatsoever, and vice versa. And sometimes it's something that related back maybe in the minor leagues when he was managing the minor leagues, your umpire, maybe a situation you had, that blew up that there's been some lasting effects too. But there wasn't one particular guy that. I mean, Cito and I didn't get along very well. I mean, I think I ejected Tony La Russa 3 or 4 times in my career. But for the most part, when you eject a guy, it's for that game, and it's over at that game.
Right.
The next day is a new day. You learn that from day one in umpire school. Every game's a new game. Now that doesn't mean we understand who. Certain players or managers have what I like to call a long rap sheet. They're known to get ejected. They're known to be in arguments all the time. So you know that going in, but that doesn't premeditate you to immediately go after somebody. I mean, it all depends on the situation and whatever. It's a new day. It's a new situation, and you take it one at a time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So now after your debut on the radio and all that, you entered the minor leagues in 1981. And who'd you work for in 81? I mean, what
I was in the Northwest League.
The Northwest
it's a rookie A-ball league. Right around home. In fact, Eugene has a team in it, so that was nice. It's a short A league, so it doesn't start till like June 20th or something like that, and it's over Labor Day. So that was my first year out of umpire school. I went to the Northwest League. The next year I was slated to go back to the Northwest League, but I got a call in May, and I was promoted to the Long A California League, which Long A, they started in April and they finished at Labor Day. But there was movement in the umpire ranks, and I got promoted there. So I went there in May. Then after that, the California League, I got promoted to AA Texas League, and I was at the Texas League for the full 83 season, and I started back in the Texas League in 84, and then in May, I got promoted to AAA, to the American Association. In May of 84, I spent the rest of the season there. I was all of 1985 in the American Association. I also went to Arizona Instructional League after the California and Texas leagues, which is runs from for about 6 weeks, from about mid-September to Halloween, and that meant a lot to my growth as an umpire. And then when I got to AAA, I was 2 winters I spent in winter ball down in the Dominican Republic, working down there. Okay. And then in 1986, I was hired full time for the American League. So I was very lucky. I only spent 5 years in the minor leagues, which is pretty quick. And most, on average, I think most guys are going to spend anywhere from 8 to 12 years in the minor leagues trying to work their way up. And I was lucky, but so I have no complaints there. But it was full time baseball from 84 for about 2 years. With me working the winter ball, also I was working baseball year round. And you had a month off in October or September, October, right in there, and then you had a month off in February. Otherwise, I was working all the time. Yeah.
So, going through the minor system, is it kind of like a baseball player? You just you're doing a good job, we're moving you up, type of thing?
Well, you unlike a player could have an outstanding first half of the season in A-ball, and they might jack him right up to AAA, or some guy from might go from AA right to the big leagues, or whatever. Okay. Umpires are different. We have to work every level of the minor leagues. They can't say, oh, you're having a great year at A-ball, we're going to put you in AAA. You know,
Okay.
That just doesn't happen. But we have minor league supervisors that are constantly watching guys work and evaluating their work, and they just like anything else, depending on openings and movement within the minor leagues, umpire wise. You might be, after a season, in A-ball, you might be promoted. You might start again in A-ball, then get promoted during the season. But you have to hit every level as you go through the minor leagues. Okay.
Now, your first major league game was Kansas City, Detroit, right? Was that your first?
It was, Detroit at Kansas City. Yeah.
What were your emotions like when that day came?
Well, it was pretty exciting. It was a makeup game from an earlier rainout that season. So it was a Monday night, August 19th, I believe. I can remember it well. And I found out about 4 days or so before I was going up. A lot of times when you're in AAA and you're going up and down, you don't find out about an assignment till, it's like you find out that night. You have to be in a city the next day. I mean, boom, you have to go because somebody got hurt or whatever. This was a makeup game that they knew was on the books. It was both teams flying into Kansas City just to play that one game, and then both teams are flying out. It was just a one game thing. But so they told me I was going to be working in Kansas City for one game. I'll have the bases. I'll have third base, and just take your base skier. And I was thrilled. I mean, I was unbelievably excited. This was your opportunity to do it. I was working in Omaha, so my flight to Kansas City was 5 minutes or something. It was very, very, very quick. I was working with Jim Evans, was the crew chief, and that year Detroit was the defending world champions, and although we didn't know it yet, Kansas City was going to be the world champions that year. So those are two pretty good teams.
Yeah.
So I showed up and I'm trying to act cool, I got all this taken care of. I was in the locker room. I put on my T-shirt before I was going to put on my umpire shirt, and Jim Evans, the crew chief, looked at me and said, "Hey, are you nervous?" And I said, No, I'm not nervous. Why would you say that? And he said, "Well, because you put your T-shirt on backwards." I said, "Well, of course I did. I set the trends, Jim. That's how I always wear my shirt that way."
My God, that's
I felt like an idiot. But then we went out, we did ground rules, and we break, and I run out to third base, and I'm looking around, and Royal Stadium.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's just
a
beautiful ballpark. And again, just thinking, wow, I'm here, and George Brett is playing third base, right? So he runs out to warm up, and he goes, "Hey, Dale," and I look.
No kidding.
I say, "Hey, George," and he goes, "Your first game?" And I looked down like I had a wet spot or something. I said, "Why? Is it obvious?" And he starts laughing. He goes, No, I just haven't seen you around. I figured it might be your first game."
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it was, he said, "Welcome to the American League." So
that's awesome.
It was quite a thrill.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was just the start. You went to a full-time ump in '86, 3,897 regular season games, 91 postseason games, 90 ejections. I had to throw that in there. It was World Series, All-Star Game, League Championship. So you've done it all from that getting that first call up in Jesus, almost 4,000 regular season games. And I mean, you've done every level of baseball you can. So what was it like? What was it like your first World Series?
Nerve-wracking, very nerve-wracking. Again, you are working as an umpire. Obviously, your first goal is just to get to the big leagues, and you have goals that you want to get the playoffs at some point, an All-Star game, that kind of stuff. And when you work yourself up to your first World Series, it's really, again, it's such a thrill to, even be considered. I mean, I've been watching the World Series as a kid every year. I mean, it was the highlight of the year. The World Series was such a big deal, and I'm thinking, my God, I'm going to be on the field calling a World Series. I mean, how does this happen? And it was 98. It was the Yankees against the Padres, and the Yankees were unbelievably good that year. I mean, I think they won 117 games or something. And it was, just a lights out team, and they ended up sweeping San Diego. But I had game 3 behind the plate, which was the first game in San Diego. And back then, the American League, we had either red shirts or blue shirts. I wore the red shirt. I'm the only umpire that's ever worn a red shirt in a World Series game. So that's one of my claim to fame. But yeah, it was just a thrill, and my parents were there, my brother, some relatives were all there in San Diego to watch my plate game, and I'll never forget that moment. Yeah, no, that had to be awesome. Talking about memorable moments, what were some of your most memorable moments as an umpire in some of the games? Any great no-hitters and stuff like that? Well, there's just a ton of them. When you have almost 4,000 games, you can, there's just a lot of opportunities to see a lot of crazy things. I was on the field when the Twins, Gary Gaetti at third base, the Twins turned 2 triple plays. Which had never happened before. Runners at first and second, nobody. It was at Fenway Park. First and second, nobody on. And Gaetti looks at me and goes, we're gonna throw a triple play right here. We're gonna roll up a triple play. I said, yeah, and we laughed. and about 2 pitches later, here's a ground ball right to him. He steps on third, throws second, throw to first, boom, triple play. And he's running off the field. And he looks at me and he's like laughing, just pointing at me. So about 2 innings later, same thing. Runners at first and second, nobody out. And Gaetti looks at me and goes, "We're going to roll another one." And he called them both. And so I said, "Yeah, right. Yeah, and I'll be damned if it didn't do it again." Same one too. Right, ground ball right to him. Boom, 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 right around the horn, triple play. Never had happened before, and it was just it wasn't a goofy triple play where catch no catch, the guy's off base. Right. It was just around the horn, boom, just like that. It was unbelievable. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's that. I remember that. I can't believe he called both of those. He called both of them. I asked him for some Powerball numbers or something. Exactly. Let's see. We got another question for you, Bob Taylor. Ask Taylor about Game 2 of the '95. American League, when Sierra and Mattingly went back-to-back, how loud was it? Which game was this? Game 2? Game 2, the 95 American League championship. Is this series? Right. In 95 was my first playoff game or playoff series. That was the divisional series between us. I had the first 2 games were Seattle at the Yankees, and I had game 2 behind the plate. And the postseason baseball it's just an intensity that you don't really appreciate or understand until you've been there. Right. You can have senior guys tell you, it's really intense, blah, blah, blah. But until you actually are there and walk on the field and just feel the vibe, you really don't have an understanding of what it's like. Add to that, the loudest stadiums in the world get louder. It's just it's amazing. And I mean, Yankee Stadium was absolutely rocking. Now, you have to remember 1995, I think, was the first year the Yankees had been in the playoffs in quite a few years. So they were raring to go as far as their fans. And I mean, the place is loud. It's just amazing the vibrations of the fans. It seems like it just penetrate your entire being out there because it is such a loud. Not just there. I mean, every playoff game I've had in different stadiums I've had, and a lot of times, sometimes those stadiums during the regular season are. Yeah, they're kind of quiet, I mean, they're loud, but they're, it's like, right. But in these situations, they are, it is just unbelievable. It's such a thrill to be a part of that. Yeah, absolutely. We got another question for you. This will be the next question. Have you ever been involved in any no-hitters or perfect games? I've been on the field for 4 no-hitters. I was behind the plate for one. Scott Erickson no-hit the Twins, no-hit the Brewers in the Metrodome in April of 94.
Okay.
I was on the field for a Seattle no-hitter. I was on the bases for a combined no-hitter. So there was like 3 or 4 pitchers that ended up throwing a no-hitter. And then I was on the field for both. Justin Verlander has 2 no-hitters. I was on the field for both of them.
That's right.
On the bases. So those are the 4. I've never been on the field for a perfect game. I've been close, been close, but haven't had one. And then I think that the one of the nastiest, most dominating pitching performances I ever saw, Randy Johnson, pitching for the Mariners in Oakland, had a perfect game with 2 outs in the 8th inning, and he gave up a walk on a 3-2 pitch, which thank God it wasn't close.
Yeah,
they couldn't blame me about it.
Right.
But he lost the perfect game on that walk. He lost the no-hitter the next inning, the 9th inning. I think there was 1 out or something, and there was not a killer base hit, but it was a base hit. And he got over the infielder and landed safely. So he never did get a perfect game or a no-hitter that game, but it was some of the nastiest pitching I've ever seen in my life. The hitters that game for Oakland just were walking from the plate after, just shaking their head because it was filthy, nasty. And he ended up winning the game, but I think he ended up giving. I think after that first hit, a little bit of a letdown. He gave him 1 more hit or something, but wow. He was nasty that game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was something to watch. I wanted to ask you, what was a couple of your favorite stadiums that you umpired in? What's a couple of the stadiums you like to be around?
There's some great stadiums, and in my time in baseball, I saw a ton of new stadiums that opened up. One of the most beautiful ballparks and the background and the setting is in Pittsburgh. It's a absolutely gorgeous ballpark. And with the city of Pittsburgh, and it's right there on the river, and the city in the background, it is beautiful. But there are a ton of, first of all, you have your classics. I mean, you have Fenway and Wrigley, which are just classic ballparks. They've been there forever. They're destination ballparks. People go to those cities to see those ballparks, as they do with Yankee Stadium and Busch Stadium. But those are classic. And then you have like we talked about earlier, you have Dodger Stadium, which is just a classic venue. Just a beautiful venue, beautiful ballpark. The way it's above the city of Los Angeles, it's just really something to see. But there's a lot of great ballparks. I mean, Seattle, San Francisco, the new ballpark in Minneapolis, in Minnesota.
Oh yeah.
You've got. I enjoy most all. I mean, Denver is a great park. Enjoy going there. Kansas City, like we said earlier, it's a classic ballpark. One that's not necessarily a classic ballpark is Tampa.
No, I hear that from more people. You said they hate playing there. They hate watching the game there.
I call it arena baseball. It's like arena baseball because you have catwalks. And if it hits this catwalk, it's a home run. But if it hits that catwalk, it's a ground striking point. Yeah. It's just like, it's just not really,
Yeah.
They could do better, I think.
Yeah. Did you ever umpire a game in the Astrodome?
I did not. I saw a game there. When I was in AA in the Texas League, my partner and I had an off day. We went and watched a game there, but I never worked a game there.
Never got a game there.
Yeah.
So now you had an amazing career umpire and everything else, but April 14, 2017 was your last game, unfortunately, in Toronto. Hit with a foul ball that was it your 4th concussion in 5 years?
Yeah, I had 4 and 5. It was my second in 8 months. It was this one got me pretty good. It also gave me whiplash. It's the first time I'd sustained whiplash when I got had taken a head blow and a concussion blow like that. I was 2 years away from retiring, and when I was recovering from that, I sought a couple experts to just pick their brain about, concussions and what I should do going forward. I asked 3 different experts on concussions and head injuries. What, if any, are the long-term effects of these concussions? Mm-hmm. And all 3 of them had the same answer, which was, we don't know. We just don't know. We're getting data. There's research. Eventually we're going to have a much better idea of how all this plays out. But right now we just don't know. But they also, all 3 said, but what we do know is the more head blows that you sustain and the more concussions that you sustain, the higher probability that you're going to have long-term issues. I talked to a couple of retired umpires who had concussion issues. They still had headaches at times. They had memory problems. They had neck problems. They had sleeping problems. It was one of those things that I could have come back, and I wanted to. If I had been healthy that year, in September, I would have hit my 4,000th game, which is a huge number for an umpire, because you're just not going to see. Not too many umpires make that milestone, and you're going to see less and less of them going forward because there's more off time now. There's more time in replay or whatever. You're just not working as many games a year as you used to. So I was, I would have liked to have hit that milestone, but the bottom line was I had to think of my health.
Sure.
And I wanted to, you work a long career and you are looking forward to retirement at some point, and you would hate to retire with, having issues that maybe you could avoid by just getting off the field. In fact, one of the specialists told me, he said, let me put it to you this way, Dale. When I have clients who say that they want to, avoid these types of long-term problems, I say, well, the best way to avoid them is to avoid getting the injury, which means get off the field, just get away. So I made the decision. I kind of said it, to me, it was like I was playing with house money, and I'm just going to walk away from the table. It was a great run. Yep. And I wouldn't change a thing, and I was thrilled, but I never anticipated that my last game, I would exit on a stretcher in a neck brace. That was not the way I envisioned it. But it's all good. I feel fine. I haven't had any repercussions from any of that. It doesn't mean that down the road I still may, but I think I made the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's a tough profession. We watch it on TV, we see foul balls off the catcher, off the umpire, and a lot of people just go, it's a foul ball. But that ball's coming off that bat. With that excess speed is just, it's scary back there.
Yeah, well, it all depends on, like if you watched 3 of the 4 concussions that I had there in the last few years, the ball hit and just dropped. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you'll see a ball hit and it'll go flying back to an angle or something way back. Right. And that actually looks a little bit more dramatic. But in essence, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, your equipment's absorbing that, your pads and your whatever, and that's a good thing. You're not taking the entire blow. But when you see a ball hit and go basically straight down, that means you've just absorbed the whole thing. You just killed the ball, and it just went down. And you can see in 3 of the 4 that I had, and that's exactly what happened. And so yes, we get hit all the time. Maybe we have the equipment. Obviously, you're trying to do the equipment wise and mechanically. You're setting up in a way that is going to be at the least percentage of getting hit. But that being said, the ball's going to find you if it's going to find you, and if it hits you in the right angle and the right velocity and the right place, it can certainly do some damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's a tough way to go off the field as your last game. Usually you finish, you retire, you go to your last game, you celebrate in the locker room after, just like you won a championship. But the way you went off, it's just it's a sad way to end your career. But like you said.
Well, I was going to say, if I went into a season knowing I was going to retire at the end of that season, you get kind of a victory lap, so to speak. You get to go to these cities that you've been going to for years, and people
Sure.
not only at the ballpark, but in hotels and bars and restaurants and places you've been going to for years and years and years, and you kind of have that opportunity to say goodbye to people and have this little and that would have been nice. I wish that could have happened, but hey, it is what it is, and you move forward.
Right. Yeah. You had a fantastic career. I mean, like you said, you've done everything in baseball an umpire would want to do, and that's pretty awesome. So Dale, 2014, you came out as a gay man in the first umpire in Major League history. What was that like?
Well, it was a journey. I actually came out in December of 2014 publicly. So, we were still like three months away or so from spring training for any games. So it wasn't during the season. You have to understand that Major League Baseball, the people I worked for in New York, all the umpires on the staff, they had known I was gay for years. This wasn't a big secret with them.
Right.
And in fact, Mike, my now husband, he before we were able to legally marry, we were domestic partners, and he was on my insurance. He had a spouse ID like all the other guys' wives had or whatever. So this wasn't a big shock to Major League Baseball. What the people that didn't know, of course, are the the media, the teams, the fans, and that kind of stuff. But it was a decision that I made because I just felt that, and Mike and I had legally married in November 2013, so about a year before this, and I just felt that it was time. I mean, I felt that we as a community had made such great strides. We made a huge stride today with the Supreme Court. I mean, my God, what a huge landmark ruling today that I'm just thrilled about, and I'll be honest, with this court, I wasn't quite sure that was going to happen. So 6-3, that was a big deal. But my thoughts back then was, I'm now married. We'd made great strides to get marriage equality and to have it be the law of the land. And I just felt almost hypocritical not to come out and be who I am, just to be who I am and let the chips fall where they may. Now it's a lot easier when I've had, at that time, 20 some years in the big leagues. So I wasn't trying to find my way, but still it was an important milestone, I think. And it was met with nothing but positive results. I never quite knew, obviously I wasn't sure how it was going to be portrayed or accepted or not accepted or whatever, but it was very, very positive, and I'm extremely happy that I did it. And I have heard numerous times from people really literally around the world that have contacted me and said, because of me, they've been able to take another step forward, or because of me, they've, it really does mean something when, as a kid or as a teenager that is dealing with this within themselves, to see somebody that they may admire in whatever, umpiring or an athlete or an actor or whatever, somebody that they look up to, and all of a sudden find out, oh my goodness, they're gay. If they can do that, I can do that,
Sure.
and it's a big deal. And so that to me made it all worth it.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot. You've seen a lot of players coming out over the years and stuff, and it takes a lot of courage and but you know what? That's who you are.
It's who you are, and when you have that visibility, it just helps. I mean, I had so many people say, "Oh my God," amateur umpires around the country who watched me on TV and they emulated my style. I was their favorite umpire, whatever. And then I came out and I was contacted by somebody that said, "Man, I can't believe it. There's no way you could have been gay. How are you? How is that possible?" I said, "It's possible because we're everywhere. I mean, and we're just like you and I. I mean, we have emotions and feelings and thoughts and all kinds of stuff. And so hopefully, like I said, today was a huge step, but hopefully we just continue to where it's just not a big deal anymore.
Right. Exactly. And then 2015 you were inducted into the Gay Lesbian Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well, that was it wasn't a big fanfare or anything, but it was nice to be recognized like that. And again, just another step of being out there. It's not one of those things where I want to be in everybody's face. I'm gay. I want everybody to recognize. It's just that, hey, this is who I am. This is being true to myself. And so, it used to be, I would be, if somebody found out I was gay, I would be horrified. I would hope that wouldn't happen. And now, and if somebody had an issue with it, or whatever, now I guess I've gotten older or whatever. It's just like, if somebody has an issue with who I am, that's their issue. It's not mine. And they need to deal with it. If they want to cut off and never talk to me again, or if they suddenly, thought I was a great umpire and now think I'm an idiot, you know what? That's their issues, and they got to deal with that. So
yeah, absolutely. But it's a great story. And I'm sure a lot of people give you props for doing that and coming out and saying that it makes them feel a little more at ease that they could come out.
Well, let me tell you a story, Bill, and I've told this before, but when this happened, I got an email from a senior in high school in the LA area who was an umpire. His goal, he wanted to become a major league umpire, but he was also gay, and he wasn't out, but he thought there's no way I could ever be a major league umpire because I'm gay. That will never happen, and he was conflicted with that. Well, then my story came out, and he contacted me, and he said, now I know that I may not make it because I don't have the talent, but it's not because of who I am.
Right.
That is huge. That right there shows you how important visibility is for people to come out and be true to themselves and be who they are. And that story, and we're still friends. We talk. He went to umpire school this last year. He's a great kid, but that really changed his life. And that's one person that told me that. How many others that I haven't heard from, I don't know, but that made it completely worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a little bit before you came on the air about the food show that I do. So tell me a few cities that's got some great food on your travels.
Well, if you look at umpires, a few of us obviously eat a lot of food. That's one of the great things about traveling the country and be able to do that. Listen, there are great restaurants and great places to eat all over the place. I mean, you have the seafood of the Boston or the North End. You've got the crabs of Baltimore. I mean, New York has whatever type of restaurant you want or whatever you want. You go down to the teams of Florida. You have the wonderful seafood down there. You go to the barbecue in St. Louis and Kansas City. You go to Texas and the barbecue and the brisket and just is outstanding. I mean, you on the West Coast. I mean, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, some great, seafood and listen, you pick out, just mention a city and I can tell you, it's one of the things I really kind of miss from not working baseball is those opportunities to, you have a Saturday day game and the evening off and we go to just a killer great restaurant and just that's why we're a little bit overweight, some of us.
You got your good eats in though.
Exactly.
What I want to ask you, this is kind of a big topic nowadays, and I'm gonna get my little side of it. Do you think they're ever going to replace home plate umpires with the electronic strike zone?
Well, they're sure pointing to that direction. I don't have an answer if it will actually full time happen, but they're going to try. Again, this is one of those instances where I'm glad I'm not in baseball anymore, because I'm just glad I don't have to deal with this. It's going to be an interesting way of doing things. You know, we have replay, and I'm for replay. It corrects mistakes. Before replay, we would make we miss a call, a steal play at second, and we call a guy out, and he should have been safe, and now the next guy hits it off the wall, and everybody's screaming, well, that should have been a run, but blah, 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 and that's all they talk about, and how you screw things up. With replay, I call him out, he should have been safe, we go to replay, oh, okay, he's safe, bam, now the guy hits off the wall, he's scoring, and they don't even mention it half the time. It's not even, so I understand that. But it seems like to me, we're getting, that pendulum is getting so far over that we're do we want a baseball game played by humans and officiated by humans, or do we want a video game? And I understand that everybody wants the umpire to be perfect. You never, ever, ever want to miss a call. And none of us, when we walk on the field, want to miss a call.
Right.
But until the game is played perfectly, that's when you should have it officiated perfectly. And one of the things that I say to kind of show what I'm talking about is, if you have the bases loaded with one out and a ground ball to shortstop, made to order double play, I mean, this is going to get him out of the inning, that's be great, and it goes right between his legs. So do you say, well, after further review, he usually makes that play, so we're going to give him 2 outs, right? Right. Of course you don't. Right. Yet you want the umpire to be on, especially with that pitch track and everything, absolutely perfect, and never miss a thing. And again, that's what we strive for. But Bill, when you watch that pitch track and you see a pitch that's just off the line, and the umpire calls a strike, you go, oh my God, that's way outside. Right. Really? That's way outside? That's this far outside. Right. I mean, come on now, give us a break. And so I don't know. We'll see how it works out. I'm afraid, I'm just not sure if, do baseball fans really want a video game, is what I call it. I'm not sure if that's what we really want.
Right. And to be honest, I don't like the box there on the TV, because now, like you said, if somebody's watching a game and it just missed, but they don't realize that when you're behind the plate, that ball comes over the plate but ends up on the outside of the box, it does go over the plate.
Well, the strike zone is a three-dimensional area, and it starts at the beginning of the plate, the front edge of the plate. It ends at the point of the plate, and it's of course has its corners, and of course the height is different for every hitter or whatever. Here's the thing: you could have a pitch that is at the very front edge of the plate, right at the knee, on the outside corner, but the movement of it takes it to where the catcher's catching it a couple inches off the plate, and barely off the ground. Now, because it has so much movement. Now, technically, by rule, any pitch that goes through the strike zone, touches any part of the strike zone, is to be called a strike. So technically, that's a strike. But those aren't called strikes by umpires. Why? Because they are not. Nobody wants those to be strikes. Those are not. They're not. That's not the way the game's played. You would have two dugouts screaming if you're calling hitters out on pitches that are being caught 2 or 3 inches outside, above, just barely above the ground. Even though technically it just nipped it. But a machine, how's it going to be programmed? It's going to register that as a strike. Period.
Exactly.
And so we're going to have to really change our attitudes on what a strike is, or how it's called, or something's got to change with the automated zone. I don't know the answer. I'm an umpire. I'm hopeful that we don't have that.
Yeah. And like you said, it's the other thing, certain umpires got different strike zones.
Well, we try to be as consistent as we can, but yes, there might be some variance here and there on high low or inside outside. And again, a high low of a hitter is different for every pitch. If you have a guy square to bunt, his high low is completely different than if he's up swinging up here. So that's all going to be judged by, I don't know if the computer, quite frankly, can judge that as well. Yeah. Exactly. I always say there's the science to umpiring, and then there's the art. And what we do a machine would be the science. It's just, this is it, and this is it, and this is it. And there's nothing you can vary from. Where the art of umpiring is us interpreting the rules, interpreting the game, and put it into effect in real time. And sometimes, yes, we do make mistakes. It's true. Yeah. But I'm just not sure if we want an automated game. Where do we get to a point where we just look at the stats and we go, okay, this team against this team, let's see. Right. His pitching against this guy. Okay, they win 3-2. All right, next team. What's the difference?
I know. No, trial of error. I mean, it's ruined the game. I don't like a lot of the rule changes in baseball as it is, and now you're really trying to speed the game up. I don't want to speed the game up. I want to sit back. I want to watch a 3-hour baseball game. I love hearing the sounds, the people, the announcers, and it seems like they're just trying to rush it through, and that's not baseball to me. I mean, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I didn't want a quick game. I didn't want to go to a game that was a 2-hour minute game. I mean, You're going to get there with great pitchers sometimes, but it just seems like they're trying to change the game more and more every year, and I don't know. Being a fan for so long, it's not my thing.
Well, I think the younger fans are not to lump everybody in the same boat, but attention span theaters.
Yeah.
If it's not happening right now, if it's not happening, then they're going to move on.
Right.
They just don't have. You talk about sitting back and watching a game and enjoying the ebb and flow of a game or whatever. And sometimes I wonder if the younger fans aren't as big of baseball fans because there is too much ebb and flow. I don't have the answer to that. I don't know, but it's a beautiful game. I can understand certain changes or things, but let's not just blow it up.
Yeah, right. We got a couple other questions, and then we got the difficult part for you coming up at the end of the show. I'll get to that in a minute. Uh-oh. Bob Taylor says, my favorite umps were Ken Kaiser and Jim Joyce. Did you ever work with them?
Yeah, I worked with both of them quite a bit. In fact, Jimmy Joyce lives about 10 miles from me, right here in Beaverton, Oregon, a suburb of Portland. I worked. Jimmy and I worked the 95 season together. We were on the same crew. And then also in 2002, I believe it was 2002, we worked together. And then Kaiser I worked with off and on, with him. Yeah. He was a funny guy. He was a one of a kind. Yeah.
Yeah. They're great. Angelo said, no, we want human element. We don't want a video game. And then Angelo said, you cannot make the game exactly perfect. Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
So, now it's time for the penalty box session of our show. You're entering the penalty box. Now, being in baseball, you've never had to worry about hitting the penalty box. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you're going to answer them as I ask. Very easy questions, but these are some of the things that people want to hear behind who Dale Scott is. So, what's your favorite meal?
Favorite meal? Probably a nice barbecued steak, baked potato. Just
What kind of steak? Any certain kind of steak?
I like probably a New York strip or a Kansas City.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm sure you had a few of those in Kansas City.
I had a few of those everywhere.
Favorite musician?
Well, this will be sappy, I'm sure, but I was a huge Elton John fan. I mean, the man is unbelievable. I'm a huge Beatles fan too. I listen to the Beatles all the time. So yeah.
I went to see Elton last year on my 50th birthday in Albany.
Okay, yeah, I saw him in Portland a year ago in January. I've seen him about 5 times probably.
He could still perform like
he's unbelievable.
Nothing. It just amazes me how he's great with the crowd and the fans, and he's playing that piano, he's dancing all over. It's just like, I was listening to this guy he's a young kid in the 70s, and here I'm 51 and still playing what he did back then. Yeah, great performer, great artist. I could listen to Alan John all day. Most memorable moment in baseball for you?
Boy, there's so many. I'll never forget walking out to home plate my first World Series. plate game, Game 3 of the '98 World Series, Yankees at Padres. I'll just never forget that moment. I mean, walking on the field for Game 1 in New York was a thrill, but that was my plate game. I was going to work behind the plate in a World Series game. It blew me away.
Yeah, I had to. That's amazing. So going to that now, if you could be behind the plate for one game, who would that pitcher be that you would want on the mound to call that game?
Wow. Let me think here. I saw a ton of good pitchers. A pitcher that I had that World Series game was David Cone.
Oh yeah,
David Cone could hit his spots and could change his speed. I mean, he was just a master. But I've seen a ton of good pitchers. Yeah. But he was the guy that some nights maybe it wasn't on, but for the most part, when you knew you had Cone, he's going to be throwing strikes, and he's going to be
kind of remind me a lot of Maddox.
Yeah, exactly.
I never got to 3 balls.
Yeah, I mean, he just would paint that plate and was always around the zone and got guys swinging the bat, and that's what you want.
Yeah, that's awesome. Last question for you: if you could sit down and have that big Kansas City steak and potato, and have one person join you just to shoot the shit, talk about anything, whether they've passed on, still alive, who would that person be and why? Who'd you like to have one more dinner with?
I know this is going to date me. You can relate to this. This is going to date me. I've always thought it would be very interesting to have dinner with Bob Hope.
Bob Hope.
There's a man who lived to be 100. Here's a man who entertained the troops year in and year out. Here's a man that did his specials and stuff. I remember as a kid watching his specials. But I just think this is a guy that would have some very interesting stories and experiences that he's had. There's a lot of people. I mean, quite frankly, Elton John would be one. I would Paul McCartney would be one. That would be. I think it'd just be an extremely interesting conversation.
You could have quite the round table with Elton John, Paul McCartney, and Bob Hope.
we really could. We really could.
That would be an interesting conversation. I'd love to be a part of that. But now, I want to thank you, man, so much for the time tonight. This was a great interview, great story. You did a lot in the game, and just your whole story behind you and everything you're all about, and coming out with everything. A lot of people are going to hear this, and it's going to give them, the idea that you were able to do it, and you got a lot of people in that same boat that, they hear your story, and it makes it a little bit easier for them.
I hope so. And I hope, like the ruling today is going to make it easier for people also. They're very happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Angela DePasquale just said, when a celebrity actually had to work, Bob Hope. Yeah. There it is. And you called it. Guys, I want to thank our sponsors once again before we get off the air. I want to thank Out of the Way Cafe, Matt Grabsky in Utica, New York. Thank you so much. And John Pappas and the Pappas family at Geddes Bakery in Syracuse, New York. Thank you guys for sponsoring our show once again. This was fun, Dale. I appreciate your time tonight and hanging out with us for an hour. And it's going to be a great story for people to listen to. If people missed the show tonight, when you watch it, give it a share, spread the word. Dale's got a great story behind him and a great career. So, Dale, I wish you the best, man, and enjoy retirement and
I appreciate
what you're doing.
I appreciate it, Bill. Thank you very much. Thanks for the invite. I had a great time.
Absolutely. Guys, tune in on Thursday, our next show. We have former Buffalo Bills kicker, legendary kicker, Steve Christie will be joining us on Thursday night. So join us 7 to 8 on Thursday. I'm Bill Vinci, your host of the No Time for Nonsense. I want to thank Dale Scott. You guys have a great night. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.